Original styles in which the painting was done in the Rajasthan area, means in the area of Rajasthan. This painting was famous, and it uses natural colors which are prolonging for longer period of time. So from the year 1767, it has come down up till now, and you can see the magnificent colors and in different parts of the painting. It expresses King Surajmal's court, maybe the plundering and the war, then all the hunting scenes, which you usually see in the history books, isn't it? The history books we see for forgiveness to Krishna. And there you see the swinging pastime, the beautiful swinging pastime with Radha and Krishna and all the gopis. They enjoy during the month of monsoon. Here the pastime. And here is a pastime where Radha and Krishna are sitting and talking, having their leela. And here is the beautiful pastime of Holi, where Radha and Krishna are, Krishna is trying to color Srimati Radharani, and all the other devotees, they are throwing colors. You can just see the bleak, not so good colors, like it has gone through some changes, but so you can still see some of the shower through the hands going out. And here Krishna trying to close the eyes of Srimati Radharani, and here your Brahma, Shiva, and the other devatas coming to see Krishna. And here one of those, all those prominent pastimes of Krishna. And here is another pastime, which is Krishna collecting the text from the gopis, especially in the area of Danagati. While we were on rickshaws, we crossed a beautiful temple where it's like a little slope, where you go like that. A beautiful place, Danagati, is the place where Krishna collects text from the gopis. And then there's a beautiful argument between Krishna and the gopis. The gopis always try to counter Krishna that, why are you doing this? So they just want to get rid of Krishna. But Krishna breaks their arguments in such a way that they are definitely forced to give text. So these beautiful paintings come from that style of Rajasthan paintings on wall, and this was the original style which you would find in all the different structures, on the different temple structures in Vrindavan. Radhe Radhe.
Well, it's actually more like 18th century Mughal. And it's ironic because the Mughals were plundered in order to build this, and then the style is kind of Mughal. I had a professor, because I started studying architecture, and we had some courses in history of architecture, so I had one course in Islamic architecture, and the professor was a specialist, and I remember him saying that Indian Muslim architecture has very thin columns, so all you'll see here, these are very thin compared to other places where they're big and heavy and strong. And I always remember, he said, yes, they had this mood of, their architecture was very dreamy. It was dreamy because they had this, it was the time in history when they were dreaming of better times. And I think that's kind of what's happening here. But the dream is, of course, also going to a earlier time. And we can say, what is the earlier time? The earlier time is when Krishna is here with Radha, and that's what we will have, yeah, and have a drama performance.
Are we really there? Harivam! So, no more. So we are at Kusum Sarovar. Kusum, the word Kusum means the flowers. So this area was known as Kusum Van, the forest where the flowers grow. And why specifically so many flowers grow in Krishna's pastimes here in this specific area? Because this place is said to be the tapasthali of Srivinda Devi. Tapasthali of Srivinda Devi. Tapasthali, where she is doing her sadhana. And Sri Narada Muni was once wishing to hear about the Ashtakaliya Leela of Krishna, what Krishna does at different times. So he went to Lord Shiva and he asked, Shivaji, you are always meditating upon Krishna's pastimes. Please tell me something about Krishna's Ashtakaliya Leela. He said that this topic is really unknown to me. Ashtakaliya Leela, the Leela which is going through these 8 phases. Phases means the throughout a day is divided into Ashprahars, which is like 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. So what during the throughout the day what Krishna and Srimati Radharani and what is really happening, that is said to be the Ashtakalya Leela, like throughout the day what is happening in Krishna's pastimes. So then he asked, whom should I ask about Ashtakalya Leela? Lord Shiva ordered that you go to Vrinda Devi because she is the manager of the Ashtakalya Leela. You go to her and she will explain. So he was asking Vrinda Devi, and then Vrinda Devi told him about the Ashtakalya Leela in this area. And this pastime we're going to continue at Narada Kund, what really happened. But in this area of Kusum Sarovar, Srimati Radharani would come to get flowers for her Surya Puja. She worships Surya Dev because she comes in the family line of Surya Dev, Surya Vamshi, and Krishna's Chandra Vamshi. So when she comes here, so there is an argument between Krishna and Srimati Radharani about the authority who is like the owner of this area, this Kusum 1. So Srimati Radharani is plucking flowers and Krishna comes and asks, where is the thief who is always stealing my flowers? Then he goes to Srimati Radharani and he says, then Srimati Radharani asks, who are you? He says that I am the gardener of this area. You don't know me? He says, but I am the owner of this area. You don't know me? Then he says, Krishna said, how come you are the owner? I am the owner of this area. Sri Kandarpa, Kandarpa means Kamadev, Cupid, himself has given me the authority over this place to take care. But then he says, Srimati Radharani said, but this one belongs to Sri Vrinda. She is our dear Saki. It belongs to her. How can you say that this is my authority? So then Krishna tells Srimati Radharani, how come you are checking on my authority? I am so pious. I am so pious. And then Srimati Radharani replies, yes, we know how pious you are. You killed a woman as soon as you were born. That much pious you are. You are always stealing. That much pious you are. You even stole the clothes of the gopis. That much pious you are. Even you killed a calf. That much pious you are. We know. So Krishna is like completely broken in the argument, and he looks towards Madhumangal, like present something now, help me out. And Madhumangal looks at Krishna and says, sometimes the well-being of a person lies in being quiet. Sometimes the well-being of a person really lies in being quiet because they cannot express. So this small pastime takes place here, and then also different Nikunja pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna, where Krishna is dressing Srimati Radharani, and he's making the hairs of Srimati Radharani here. In Brihad Aranyak Upanishad it is mentioned, in Puran it mentioned that when Krishna tries to serve Srimati Radharani by decorating her, he's not fulfilled by his own one Swarupa. So when he is decorating Srimati Radharani, he expands himself to different forms, and then he starts decorating Srimati Radharani. That much he wishes to serve Srimati Radharani. And when he is making the hair of Srimati Radharani, he is plucking the beautiful champa flowers and he is putting them into Srimati Radharani's hair, and it looks as if during the monsoon season when the black clouds come and the stars have also come and they are sparkling. It's the hairs of Srimati Radharani look like that. And in this area there are also some another pastimes which we should hear little about. In Skanda Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam's Mahatmya is mentioned. The glorification of Mahatmya is mentioned there. And the description starts when Krishna has left this beautiful, this area and also this world. He has left it, and then the queens of Krishna, the other, they are feeling separation. So they come to the river Yamuna and they ask Yamuna that why Yamuna ji, you are not feeling separation from Krishna. You are like Patarani, one of the very close associate of Shri Krishna. Why don't you feel separation? And Yamuna Devi is expressing to all of them that Atma Ramasya Krishnasya Dhruvam Atmasti Radhika. That Krishna, he is Atma Ram. He always resides in the heart of Srimati Radharani. And Tasya Das Prabhavena. And I personally have accepted Dasya, the servant nature of Srimati Radharani, and that's why I don't feel separation from Sri Krishna. Because I have accepted the service of Srimati Radharani, I am not feeling separation. And then they ask, whom should we ask about Krishna? Yamunaji, you please explain to us. Yamunaji said that there is one person who specifically knows about Krishna's different pastimes, and he's a close associate of Krishna. And it is said wherever the devotees call out for him and chant Krishna's names, he appears specifically at 3 places. The first place in Vrindavan, which is near Kusum Sarovara in the Kusum one. The second in Dwarka, the third in Badrikashram. And that personality is Sri Uddhava. Sri Uddhava is omnipresent at all these different places. And why specifically in this place Sri Uddhava is present? When Uddhava came to deliver the messages of Krishna to the gopis, so before coming to Vrindavan, he was a great jnani, great knowledgeable person, and he is a direct disciple of Brahaspati, the king of the Devatas, the teacher of the Devatas, guru of the Devatas. So he was so proud and everything, but he had that desire to learn, prema bhakti, prema towards Krishna. So when he came here, he delivered the message to the gopis, and the gopis literally smashed his knowledge. When he was ordered by Krishna that, oh Uddhava, if you go to Vrindavan, just go and teach the Brajbasis some yoga, some Jnana yoga, some Brahma yoga, so that they don't feel separation from me. So when he tried to teach the gopis that, oh Gopi, that supreme Brahma, he has no mother, father, no hands, no form, and one has to meditate upon him by their own heart. The gopi said, okay, your argument accepted, but now we present ours. You tell that supreme person does not have mother and father, who are Nanda Baba and Yashoda Maiya. You say that we have to meditate upon that supreme person from with our heart. Actually, Uddhava, Manana bhai dasabis. Uddhava, one person does not have 10 or 20 hearts. One person has one heart. Ek hato so gayo shama sang. We had one heart, and that is already taken away by Krishna. Ab kaise arade ish. Now you are telling us to meditate upon that Ishvara with heart, but we don't have any heart. How should we meditate upon him? We don't have any heart. When Uddhava heard all these prema bhakti tipped statements of the gopis, and when they described their love for Krishna, Uddhava was completely changed. It was the first ever story of transformation from a jnani, from a great jnani to a great bhakta, to great devotee, who even prays that even the thorns of Braj are so nice, so favorable to the jnanis, because when the jnanis walk around the thorns in Vrindavan, these thorns rip off the shawl or the covering of knowledge which they have. He even praises the thorns of Vrindavan, and when he has really changed, became a devotee, he prays. For what he prays? He prays to to become a creeper or a blade of grass or even something very menial around the area of Kusum 1, where if he becomes a blade of grass or whatsoever he desires, kimapi, it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam directly in a shloka where he's praying uh, asa maho charan renu sham sham vrindavane kimapi gulmalatao shidhinam, that may I become just a gulma, like small blade of grass, lata or a creeper, oshadhinam or maybe a herb. If I may become, then these beautiful gopis, these beautiful Brajabasis who are so filled with love for Krishna, they will just walk over me and my life shall be fulfilled. He even says that even if they will not walk over me, their shade will come to me and my life shall be successful then. So he stays in this area. And about the Narada's pastimes, how he took a dip in Kusum Sarovar, became a gopi. We will hear about this specific pastime there. And when there's one another small pastime where when these gopis were looking for Krishna and asked Yamuna ji, and the Yamuna ji told that ask Uddhava to come. Uddhava came here in this area, and here was the first ever place where he described Srimad Bhagavatam to Vajranabh and to Parikshit. The first ever recitation, one of the first ever recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam as per the Skanda Purana takes place in this area of Kusum Sarovar, where he expressed Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit and Vajranabh, and he instructed them, because Vajranabh wanted to reproduce or reestablish the area of Vrindavan. So he had this desire, because he comes, Vajranabh by the way is the great grandson of Krishna. So he want to again establish Vrindavan, which was lost after Krishna. So Parikshit was the king of this area, like the whole Bharatavarsha after Yudhishthir. So Parikshit Maharaj gave the area of Mathura Mandal to Vajranabh, that you take care of this area and you reestablish it. So when Uddhava came here, so he was asked, he was instructing Vajranabh and also Parikshit into Srimad Bhagavatam, and specifically Vajranabh, that how he should do the re-establishment. So he asked him to establish different places. The four important villages of Braj were re-inhabited by Vajranabh. The first place was Dig. It's now a city from Govardhan, 20 kilometers away in the area of Rajasthan. Dirgapure, Govardhanu, Mahavan, Nandagram and Varsana area. These were re-established, re-inhabited, like no one was living there. He re-inhabited, even brought monkeys from Indraprastha around Delhi. That's why they are so naughty, maybe. So he brought them here because everything was lost. And on the opening day, when one very good devotee amongst us asked about the deities Swayambhu or Parabhu, Swayambhu, like how about all these deities which we see in Vrindavan, we hear about them, that they are self-manifested deities. And if the simple human logic, the faith accepts, yes, they are self-manifested, but the human mind always thinks they have a form which is definitely of stone. They were maybe sometimes they were being carved, and how they came into existence, it's not possible without carving them out. So one of the really good explanation about how the different self-manifested deities came to Vrindavan was, Vajranabh asked Kunti Devi that what should I do to express the form of my great-grandfather in front of all who want to see him. She instructed Vajranabh that either you become a painter or a sculptor. Either you start painting his pictures or you make deities of him. And he became a sculptor. He would carve out a deity and he would show it to Kunti Devi, that is he looking like my great-grandfather? And she would say that Vajranab, you have got the facial structures really right in this one, but the body parts are not looking directly similar to your great grandfather. So that means he would take that deity and he would establish it somewhere in some of the temple here in the area of Vrindavan, and he won't like cover them up or just leave them like that. So in that way, many deities were installed, established by Sri Vajranab in this area, and in due course of time, it happens that things get covered and things get lost. To Sri Rupa Goswami himself, when Govindaji appeared, Rupa Goswami was doing bhajan at Gomatila, a mound in Vrindavan, and there in the cave where he was, doing meditation, Govindaji revealed to him that I am here, take me out, I am here. And from that same mound, some other deities also came out. So deities like Hari Dev, Keshav Dev, Baladev, they were installed by Vajranab, and so many other preparations. So this starting of this process of instructing Vajranab to reestablish Vrindavan, which we have now, was given by Uddhava himself in this specific area. So this is little something about what happens around the area of Kusum Sarovar, and then Marge also has to say some many good things, and we will continue about some little pastime about Narada Muni at Narada Kunda. Radheshyam.
Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan, Shri Govinda, Gopinath, Madana Mohan, Kalandi, Jamuna Jaya, Jaya Mahavan. How is it? Jaha Sabavila Koilo, Sri Nandanandan. Then
I know Pindya.
Keshigat, Ram Shivat, Dvadasha Kanhan. Okay. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Actually, as I've been told, originally Vrindavan referred to the greater area, the Vrindavana, the forests, the 12 forests, and Braj refers to the area of the cow, where the cows are kept. So the village, is that right? The Gosht, yeah, Goshta. Anyway, now it's the other way around. We speak of Braj as the greater area. Well, one thought I have is about the meeting and separation theme. We understand Krishna and Radha meet. Yesterday we were at Radha Kunda, where they meet at midday. Why do they meet at Radha Kunda at midday? Because everybody is sleeping at that time, having a nap, and it's a good chance to Krishna slips away. There's a lot of slipping away in the stories of Radha and Krishna meetings, sneaking out, slipping away. And why is that? Because the relationship is, the technical term is parakiya bhava, the having a relation with one who belongs to another, literally, because Radharani she's married. Hare Krishna. She's married. Who to? Who is she married to? Abhimanyu. Poor Abhimanyu. I mean, he's the most fortunate in the universe because he's married to Radharani, but he doesn't understand. She's always, her heart is elsewhere. And it's that illicit connection with Krishna that makes it so sweet, so charming, and makes it dangerous. And the danger makes it exciting, and the excitement makes it interesting. And so we celebrate that relation. Swakiya means of oneself, and that is the relation of Krishna and his wives. And that's a relation which is all about dharma and doing things right, doing things properly. And that's what Krishna teaches when he goes to Dwarka and so on. But when he's here, he is lampata, he is scheming. And part of the scheming is when Radha comes here, Srimati Radharani is picking flowers, and we're going to hear about that and see that enacted. Actually, I wanted to say that also, that there is a wonderful tradition here in Braj of Ras Leela performance. It's called Ras Leela, which is inclusive of all the different Leelas. And these are performances which are done by young children, and they're all of the performers, including those performing the characters of female, they're all male, they're all boys. And they're trained from very early age. I've seen some of these performances, and you'll see the kids, some of them are, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 years old. And then there'll be a couple of one or two kids who are maybe 5, and they have no clue what they're doing. But they're on the stage, and they're just imitating the dancing of the older boys, and in this way they learn. And then there will be wonderful Rasdari Kirtaniyas who are performing, who are singing what's happening. It's all happening in Braj Bhasha, and these are meditations. The point I want to make is these are meditations for the audience, and the understanding is their acting is it's Krishna and Radha, and so at the end of the performance they will sit on a throne, and all the audience come up and worship them. They worship the two boys as Radha and Krishna, because it's understood there's a non-difference there. So that's a very, very nice thing. So we might meditate like that as we are observing this performance just about to happen. Before that, I just want to express my appreciation of the song we've been hearing and singing the last few evenings with Manas Goswami, this Radharaman Kaho. How does the melody go? Just desh mein just desh. So maybe you've looked at the translation, but I find it very interesting as a song expressing the inclusiveness of worship of Krishna. The first verse is, whichever country you live in, however you dress, whatever culture you may adopt, just chant Radharaman, Radharaman, Radharaman. And it goes on like that. Whichever holy place you may live in, whatever work you do, whatever name you go by, and then always the same refrain, just chant Radharaman, Radharaman, Radharaman. So now someone may think, Oh, well, that's still very sectarian. Because it's all about Radharaman, Radharaman, Radharaman. And they all want us to go and have darshan of Radharaman in Vrindavan, which I highly recommend. I spent 4 months living next to Radharaman temple, studying their worship and writing about it. It's an amazing culture. But what means Radharaman? What means the name Radharaman? One who gives pleasure to Radha, Srimati Radharani. Okay. And the name Radha, what does that mean? Yes?
Worship, like arati.
Yeah, Aradhana. Aradhana means worship. And Radha is understood to be the best worshipper, right? So Radharaman is the Lord who pleases the best worshipper. So if God is the one who pleases the worshipper, then we can sort of, how to say, desectorize and make it a general understanding. This is a name for God, Radharaman, a very sublime name for God. And here the invitation is, let's everyone worship God, who, by the way, is known as Radharaman, and who has this very sweet and charming and, how to say, captivating form. So, whichever type of body you have, just de hame, there's always a little at the end with Brajavasa. Jisa de me, jisa ge me, right? Jisa sneha me. Whichever type of body you have, whichever kind of house you dwell in, whatever relationship, just a sneha, whatever relationships you have, just chant Radharaman, Radharaman, Radharaman. Whatever your attachment, whatever your passion, whatever you renounce, we don't care what you think you are and what others think you are. It doesn't matter. Just chant Radharaman. So I think it's a beautiful invitation for everyone to celebrate together. Doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, how you're dressed. Doesn't matter what you believe or don't believe. Whatever you take pride in, jisamaname, samaname. Whatever you are respected or disrespected for, chant Radharaman. Whatever spiritual path you follow, jisadharmame, jisakarmame, whatever you do, jisamarmame, whatever understanding you abide by. Sometimes we get all wound up about, what is some details of our philosophy, theology, and somebody disagrees. Did we or did we not fall from the spiritual world? We have to fight about it. This song says, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just chant Radharaman. And that's in the next line. Just jnaname, just dhyaname, just ashaname. Whichever philosophy you accept, whatever meditation you perform, however gracefully you live, or ungracefully, crudely, just chant. What should we chant? And the last last line, Isalokame, Paralokame, Golokame Raho. Whether you live in this world, whether you live in the next world, or whether you live in Goloka, then what should we do? Radharaman, 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 Radharaman. Yeah, so I would call this an interfaith dialogue song. So maybe we can have you perform the drama now.
First we will see about appearance of Kusum Sarovar, and then we will see one pastime which happened here. The first text is from the book Radharani, written by Bhakti Purushottam Swami, and the second is from Color Guide to Vrindavan. We would like to thank Dira Lalita, who suggested this second dramatic reading. Just before, few minutes before, I sent a message to WhatsApp group asking who would like to participate in dramas. She was reading this pastime from the book and immediately felt inspired, like, oh, this would be good to perform. Like this.
Once upon a time, in the beautiful forest of Vrindavan, in the presence of their beloved Radha and Krishna, the gopis were collecting flowers in a basket for this divine couple. Due to a commotion at one point, the flowers fell from the basket to the ground. Whereupon Radharani asked Krishna,
"What should we do with all of these flowers that have fallen?"
Oh dear Radha, I would like to rinse these flowers and use them to decorate your hair.
Radharani was pleased with this idea. With her permission, Krishna then gathered all the blooms from the ground and was preparing to go to Yamuna river to wash the flowers. The Yamuna was at far distance and it would take a long time to reach it.
We do not have time to go so far to the Yamuna to wash the flowers.
Krishna understood the mood of Radharani. She did not want him to leave her for so long. Krishna therefore took his flute and pierced the earth with it, creating a hole. Immediately it filled with water and gradually developed into a pond of clear water. Then Krishna washed the flowers of the water of this pond. Krishna combed and braided Radharani's hair and then decorated it with flowers. While Krishna was decorating her hair, Radharani held a mirror in her hand in such a way that she could see Krishna's face in the mirror. In this way, Radharani enjoyed the darshan of Krishna while he enjoyed styling her hair with the flowers. As Krishna created this pond to wash the flowers, Kusuma, this body of water is known as Kusuma Sarovara. Once, when Radharani and her girlfriends were picking flowers, Krishna suddenly appeared on the scene and started joking with Radharani.
Who is picking flowers?
No one but me.
Who are you?
Don't you know me?
If I knew you, I wouldn't ask.
I don't care if you don't know me. Why don't you leave this place?
I'm the gardener. Where will I go?
If you are a male bee, then go to a female bee.
You are the female bee.
You appear to be an honest man, an ascetic. Yes, you know the art of stealing a youth's heart. Aren't you ashamed of yourself?
My dear lady, Maharaj Kandarpa, Cupid, is the king of this forest. Because he is pleased with me, he has delegated to me all his powers. If you are so proud, I will confiscate all your flowers. Oh, pretty lady, I am a brahmachari and an ascetic. It appears to me that you have come here simply to try and entice me with your beauty. But do not think that I am alone here in the jungle. My Saka's friends are always close by. Please don't play any tricks with me and just behave like an honest person. Anyway, your bodily actions speak louder than any words. You are trying to capture Maharaj Kandarpa's property. Every limb of your body is just like a thief. Don't think that just because you are a lady, you will be pardoned. I would be committing a great wrong if I pardoned you. When I take you before the Maharaj Kandarpa, you will be sentenced with various punishments. At that time, your vanity will vanish. Without permission, you have picked the flowers, and I have no authority to pardon you. You are thinking that this is just an ordinary forest, and that Maharaj Kandarpa is not very powerful king, because his kingdom is so small. But you will see, because you have robbed this kingdom, you will be punished. With the different parts of your body, you have stolen different things. The palms of your hands and the soles of your feet have stolen the beauty of the petals of the lotus flower. Your gait, the baby elephants and swans. Your nails, the mirrors. Your knees, golden balls. Your hips, the golden banana trees. The upper part of your waist, the golden altar. Your navel, the lake of nectar. Your chest, the bed of Cupid. Your fingers, the flowers of Cupid, which is the source of his power. Your teeth have stolen the pearl necklace, and your eyes, the deer and the chakori bird. The lines on your neck, the coach, and the lines on your stomach, the gentle waves of the Yamuna. You have stolen so many things. How can the king pardon you? The beauty of our kingdom is unique in all the world. Today you have robbed everything including our prestige.
Oh, Krishna, you are very clever. You are the greatest thief. Now you are acting as a saint and calling others a thief. What can be said of you when you stole the clothes of the gopis? Your character was apparent. Those poor naked gopis were standing before you with folded hands, and you were simply enjoying the fun. There is no better example of your honesty. Oh Krishna, there are many girls of marriageable age, and you are a young prince, but nobody is willing to give his daughters to you. There must be a good reason. It is highly probable that you are not a normal man, and no girl will like to marry an abnormal man. My dear Krishna, I fully understand that it is not out of choice but out of force that you have become a brahmachari. Oh Krishna, you are in the habit of playing your flute, which has the power of attracting all the young girls. Shameful! How dare you call yourself a brahmachari? In the fact, it is a very wicked and sinful that you call yourself a brahmachari and then tempt young girls. Now, don't come so close to me, please. It is surprising, considering that you have not planted a single tree in this whole forest, that you can claim ownership. The entire forest has been destroyed by your cows trampling here and there and everywhere. Oh, our Sakhi Vrinda Devi has taken great pains to keep this forest clean and tidy. Therefore, we can call it Vrindavan, and she presented it to me as a gift. This forest has grown around the banks of Radha Kund, and it is my playground. There is a sign on the patch which says, "Ladies only." We are simply picking flowers to worship the sun god. So, who are you to stop us? This place belongs to us. Oh Brahmachari ji, males are strictly prohibited. How dare you set foot here? Off you go with your cowherd friends and look after the cows.
And what happened next? Srimati Radharani then threatened Krishna that she would call Lalita, who she said was very powerful. But at that moment, Vishaka Sakhi intervened in the lovers' quarrel and, catching hold of the corner of Radharani's cloth, tied it to Krishna's. She then informed the divine couple that it is now time for them to move on to Radha Kunda. The divine couple performed many nectarian pastimes at Kusum Sarovara, and it is said that anyone who bathes in the sanctified waters of this lake become eligible to witness the ambrosial eightfold pastimes Ashtakaliya Leela of Shishi, Radha and Krishna. Formerly, Govardhana Hill could be seen behind Kusum Sarovara, and it is used to stretch all the way to Radhakund, but because of its gradual sinking into the ground, it can no longer be seen in this area.
So we are at Narada Kund, and the first thing which we will chant is something about glorification of Narada Muni, who really Narada is. It's mentioned in Padma Purana about Narada Muni's greatness, who he is really. And there's one specific shloka. Aho Narada, Dhanyosi. All glories to Sri Narada. Virakta Nam Shiromani. He is the supreme of all renunciants. He is the one who has the supreme renunciation. Nothing. He doesn't have anything, any belonging. Sada Shri Krishna Dasanam Agrani Yogera Bhaskara. He is the first among the servants of Sri Hari, and he is the greatest illuminator of Sri Bhakti Yoga. We all know that he has written these beautiful, beautiful Narada Bhakti Sutras. And this place specifically, Narada Muni was doing his tapasya, and we heard about very little that he had this desire to hear about the Ashtakalya Leela of Krishna, like the day-to-day pastimes of Krishna. So he heard about it from Vrinda Devi. Then he wanted to participate in that. If I describe to you how sweet is Rasagulla, and just describe it, you won't stop. You would say that we want to have it. So it was really like this for Narada. He wanted to be a person live. Wanted to see it. What is Krishna's and Srimati Radharani's Ashtakalya Leela is. So here he would reside, and it is said that he took bath in Kusum Sarovar in the northwest direction of Kusum Sarovar. He took a bath along with Madhavi Gopi, and he got that Gopi form, and he was known as Naradi Gopi. The Brajabasis call him Naradi Gopi. And when he had been the participant into the Leela, then he again came back and received his Purusha form by going to the different direction, which is southwestern direction, where Narada Muni took bath and received back his form. And here, when he was doing his tapasya, Brahma himself came and took water out of the Kamandala. Brahma has this Kamandala, and all the shastras and the knowledge he showered it to Narada at this Narada Kund. And still today, there's a specific day in the year when at this specific place, Saraswati Devi also came and gave the buddhi yukti, means the ability to understand everything very clearly to Narada Muni. And this day is in the Magh month, like the month which was just before this month. Now it's Falgun, Magh month, on the Krishna Paksha, and the 14th day, Chaturdashi, they do a Shnan. It is really super cold. I have done it 2 times. There's one Baba living in Govardhan. His name is Kanaya Baba. He is the one who is guiding this, and he gives the reference from Sri Narayana Bhatt Goswami's Braj Bhakti Vilas about this specific day that Saraswati Devi herself came and gave this knowledge to Sri Narada under a peepal tree here. And Narada was standing in the lake up till navel, and he recited all those beautiful shlokas, which even he is the person who is reciting it, and many brahmanas come here to do that ritual every year on that day. So it is said when Narada took bath at Kusum Sarovar, he received those 11 Ekadash Bhava, those 11 features that are required, that are one's true identity, in the path of Raga Marga, in the path of spontaneous attachment to the divine couple. And I don't have like the exact confirmation whether it was done here or somewhere else, but it is. Many have said that the Narada Bhakti Sutras were also written in this area. And there is a pranam mantra for this specific place mentioned in a shastra. So we will chant the pranam mantra of this specific lake, and after from here we will take some drops on our head like mansha snan, and so we will all chant after me. Yatraiva munir shardulo naradastu tapascareta Shri Krishna Samdarshanarthaya Yoga Vidyam Cha Prarthayan. Then the other shloka. This first shloka describes about what happened here. Here Narada Muni along with Shardul Muni came here, did tapasya for what? Krishna Samyak Darshanarthaya, that just to see the pastimes of Krishna. Yoga Vidyam Cha Prarthayan, and desired to have that Yoga Vidya, that intelligence or that Vidya by which he could access those pastimes. Now comes the exact pranam mantra of this kund, which is from Brihad Naradiya Upanishad. So everyone, Brahmaloka Pradayeva Vaikuntha Padadayine Namaha Narada Kundaya Tubhyam Papa Prashantaye. The shloka says that, O Narada Kund, I offer my humble respects to you, who has the capability to give a seat in Brahmaloka Pradayeva and also a seat at Vaikuntha. And O you, the one Narada Kund, you relieve away of all the bad doings which a person has done. So this is the place of receiving that Vidya, Yoga Vidya, to access that spiritual dimension of Sri Vrindavan, which Narada himself did. He practiced his sadhana here, and even till today these rituals which Sri Narada also followed are being continued by the Brajabasis. They do it, and it's even in the news so much, that this ritual goes on here. So if one wants to really get some buddhi to do this sadhana, he can come on the 14th day in the Magh month, when it's really super winter in Vrindavan, and if you do that ritual, you will really feel that you have really done something. Mostly to the body, because it's really cold, and you have to stay like for 1 hour and a half in the water, and then you have to chant everything. So it's really like that.
It's not just a quick dip.
No, it's not a quick dip. You have to stand, and you have to bring some of the items which are the pujari knows more, which are being offered to the kund, and then many of the stotras and shlokas are being recited.
And standing there wondering, when are they going to finish?
When is prasad? Yeah. Thank you very much. Radhesham.
Who wants to go to Vaikuntha? Yes, no, that's fine, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Goloka is the topmost planet of Vaikuntha. He includes it as part of Vaikuntha. So who wants to go to Vaikuntha? Yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
If you go,
Oh, yeah, I'll vote for Goloka. Yes, but what does Lord Chaitanya say? He says, Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam jagadisha kamaye. And then, Mama janmani janmanishvare bhakti tayi. Who votes for that? You get only a handful of votes. More of you would like to go just straight to Vaikuntha. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, Narada Kunda. Okay, Naradavan is it's the forest of Narada. And one detail I read is that because Narada was blessed, I believe by Vrinda Devi, to stay here and compose his sutras here, the Narada Bhakti Sutras, the issue came up, well, but he's been cursed. What was the curse?
What to stay?
He can't stay in the one place.
Can't stay in one place for longer than it takes to milk a cow. Something like that. No, can't stay anywhere very long. Can't stay anywhere. So how is he going to stay here? How is he going to stay here? He's been cursed. The answer is, Vrinda Devi reassures him, no worries, that curse is only applies in the material world, and this place is not in the material world. It's in the spiritual world. So this is the place to be. The first sutra of the Narada Bhakti Sutras is Atato Bhaktim Vyakyasyamaha. You may know the first sutra of the Brahma Sutras or Vedanta Sutras. How does it go? Atato Brahma Jignasa. So that Ata and Atta is saying essentially, okay, you've done everything else preliminary, now you're ready. Now you're ready, in the case of Vedanta Sutra, to understand, to go for jnana. Atato Brahma Jnana. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Right. That's not very popular nowadays. It's Kali Yuga. And so, Narada kindly wrote the Bhakti Sutras, which nobody reads also. But it's very nice. Srila Prabhupada started to translate and comment on the Narada Bhakti Sutras. I think the first 13 of the 84, something like 84 sutras, he translated and commented on. In any case, it's a very compact explanation of what is bhakti and how to do it, how to become perfected in bhakti. So Narada Muni is the authority. He's appearing repeatedly in the Bhagavatam, and it's Narada whom Prahlad Maharaj remembers when he's praying to Nrsimhadev. He wants to give credit to Narada for giving him bhakti, for giving him that knowledge. So, Narada Kunda, Narada Vana ki. Do you want to sit here to talk?
On the side.
Do you want to sit in the chair?
No.
No. Why not?
So what is translation of this first mantra?
Marcus liked us to eat.
nothing is okay. Radhe Sham. I don't know what I'm supposed to speak, but Marge was insistent, so I'll speak what inspires me about this place and about Narada Muni specifically in this place. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, very favorite verse of mine, Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupastrita bahavo gana tapasa puta ma bhava magata. So he says many people, devotees, have developed madbhava, means a nature like mine, or my bhava, my love, by being purified by the austerity of knowledge, puta jnana tapasa. After giving up attachment, fear, and anger, and taking shelter from me, vitaraga bhaya krodha. So Srila Prabhupada, when commenting on this verse, specifically when speaking about fear, Prabhupada speaks about giving up the fear of individuating before God. He says, in the material world, we have a very sour experience of being persons. And so that makes us disinclined for being persons in relationship to the absolute truth. We have a fear of that. And so he says that we have to give up the attachment to, or give up fear, the fear of individuating before God, becoming an actual person before the absolute truth. And a person means what? It means specificity. A person doesn't mean an exact clone look-alike. There are specifics there. So, in the material world, the living entity, we kind of take shelter of impersonalism in many different ways. And one of the ways we might be sheltered in impersonalism is by a spirit of apathy to the development of a personality in relationship to Krishna. As long as we're meeting the status quo that won't get us kicked out of the temple or out of the local spaces that we find to be giving us shelter, we don't want to be kicked out, obviously. So we kind of surrender ourselves to a status quo that will keep us sheltered from ridicule, from being blacklisted, and so on. And in being sheltered in that, we remain apathetic to the development of our personality in relationship to Krishna. It's a type of fear. It's a fear so subtle that you don't even notice it, and it sabotages one's entire life. Fear, of course, is the natural condition of the soul in the material world. Bhayam dutiya biniveshatasha rishare petasha viparaya ashmritihi namaya yato. This verse is explaining that the root cause of the soul's entanglement is we're turned away from Krishna, ishara peta. And to be turned away from Krishna is to be turned away from your own self. Insofar as when you're not facing the sun, what do you see? Shadow. So being turned away from the Son of Krishna, then ashmritihi. Ashmritihi means we forget our own self. To turn away from God is really to turn away from your own self. And now that you don't know who you are, ashmritihi, you're open to suggestions. So this is called viparya. Viparya means like just the opposite. You think yourself a material body, an ego, etc. And because of that ego, you have the dvitiya biniveshita. That means an absorption. And the second, it means absorption in Maya, basically. Dvitiya biniveshita. Absorption in those ego modes. Those feeling tones informed by ego. And the culminating fruit of this process is bhaya, is fear. And so, if you analyze the activities of the jivas in the material world, all of them, they're all informed by fear. The very ground that we walk on is fear. So many types of fear. You can just look within your own heart. Fear of being rejected, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being validated, fear of hunger. If you're a little bit on the conspiracy theory side like me, fear of the government. There's so many fears in the material world that governs our movement. I came running to Govardhan because I'm like, American government out of control. And they're about to like increase. So I said, if I have to be stuck somewhere, let it be in Govardhan. So I have attraction to Govardhan also, but there was some fear. So there are so many fears that govern our existence. And so there's also this fear, a very subtle fear. And that is the fear of individuating before God. We don't want to be persons somehow. This impersonalism has gotten us all. And so Prabhupada writes that only after giving up this fear and taking shelter of Krishna and being purified by the Jnana Tapasa. So the first thing is Gyan. There should be awareness of your prospect in relationship to the Absolute. What do you want? Huh? Who do you want to be in relationship to Krishna? That's very nice. He's showing us how to take the adventure of self-discovery. It's a little bit dangerous.
Murari!
He's also
Come on,
hurting the tree.
Oh, he's cracking the tree. He's not agreeable.
No, you can sit, but don't do this.
Nichts runterschmeißen und dem Baum ne wehtun, okay?
Yes. Okay. Radhe, Radhe.
Just like if I ask you, what is your goal in Krishna consciousness? What will you say? Krishna Prema, right? Why do you say Krishna Prema? Because that's the right answer. Isn't it? But if I ask you, what is your specific goal? There's so many types of Krishna Prema. Vatsalya Prema, Madhurya Prema, Sakya Prema, Dasya Prema. There's so many types. Which one is your goal? When you say Krishna Prema, what do you mean when you say that? No one's ever challenged us like that. So we can challenge ourselves. What do I mean when I say Krishna Prema? I think for most of us, it doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. It's just very generic. So because it's generic, we don't really have an organizing principle for our life. But Narada Muni, he knew exactly who he wanted to be in relationship to the Absolute Truth. After hearing from Brinda Devi about the glories of Gopi Bhav, immediately he said, I want to attain Gopi Bhav. And that desire became the organizing principle for how he conducted his practice here at Narada Kunda. So it was the first thing we learned. First you have to get Gyan, just like I quoted the verse the other day. Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita His Saroja. Aste Shrutekshita Pato. Nanunat the Pumsa. Prabhupada translates this phrase, Shruta Ikshitapata, the path of seeing through hearing. First you hear from divinity like Brinda Devi and about Gopi Bhav. Then Ikshita means then you can see that by following the process that allows for that perception, that vision of the Absolute Truth. So Narada Muni heard, he got the Gyan. And the Gyan here means the specificity. I want Gopi Bhav. What do I have to do? So then he came here to the Narada Kunda and then he performed Tapasya. So, Bahavo Gana Tapasa Puttama Bhava Makata. He got the Gyan and then he performed the Tapasya. The Tapasya that would allow him to actualize that desire to become a Gopi or individuate before Krishna in that specific way. And so because of his Tapasya, his place becomes a seat of power through which, the powers of eternity, descend into this world. It becomes worshipable. The place where he sat and performed his austerity. The word that we mostly use the word sadhana to describe our practice. But in like the Upanishads, there's a more generic term used, upasana. is also the term Jiva Goswami uses in the very outset of Bhakti Sandarbha. Because before he makes his case that Bhakti is the highest sadhana, he wants to just speak generically. So he says, generically, the root cause is we're turned away from God, Bhagavat Vaimukya. And so the roots, if that's the root cause, then the root solution is turning towards God, right? That's called Samukya. So he says, this is our spiritual path. I like this language because it's very universal. Before we get into our sectarian bhakti talk, we could tell everyone, yeah. You know, it's just about turning towards the absolute reality. Like, then bhakti. But Jiva Goswami, he kind of develops it. So then he says, this Samukya is characterized by upasana, which is the term that was generally used in Upanishads. So the word upasana, the word asana, you know, like yoga asana, the word asana means to sit. And upa means like to sit near. So upasana, to sit near divinity with reverence and, you know, pure concentration. This is called upasana. So here Narada Muni comes to do his upasana. It is his seat of power through which he is connecting to divinity. And this becomes a template for all future followers of Narada Muni or followers of Bhakti. That first we shall hear from Gurudev, from divinity, and from hearing what should come up for us is the idea of who or what or we should be in relationship to the absolute truth. There's a nice verse like this also in Bhagavatam. Pravishta karna randrena swananam bhavasuroruham dunoti shamalam krishna salidasha yatasharat. This verse from 2nd Canto, chapter 8, verse 5. Pravishta karna means when Krishna, in the form of Bhagavatam, he enters the chamber of the heart through the ear. Because ear has this peculiar quality that can't block out sound. Unless you're deaf. So people, of course, sometimes when we're chanting in the streets, Hare Krishna, people cover their ears, but it's too late. In order for you to cover the ear, you must have heard it. We already got you. Yeah, we already got you. So this is a peculiarity of the ear. It can't block anything. So Krishna, in the form of Bhagavatam, is able to have access to the heart very quickly through this chamber. And then he sits on the lotus heart of the aspiring devotee, Bhava Sororuham, Swananam Bhava Sororuham. His potential and bhav, he sits on that. Dunoti Shamalam Krishna. And he kicks out all the nasty things. Salilasya Tasharat, like autumnal rains on pools of muddy water. I think that's the analogy. Apparently in the rainy season, the mud comes to the surface. But during the autumn season, it's just like a slight drizzle and all the mud settles. So the presence of Krishna removes all the mud surrounding one's potential and bhav in relationship to him. So this is the power of hearing. It's supposed to excite that. And then after that is excited, it becomes clear for you what is really your goal in life. Forget your goal in Krishna consciousness. What is your goal in life? If some secular person were to challenge you right now, what is your goal in life? You know, and if you just say Krishna Prema without having identified that, they will know you are fake. Super Soul will tip them off. He's lying. He don't know. What is the purpose of your life? This is the gift of hearing, to get that purpose, and then that becomes the force that allows for tapasya to take place, where you set your seat of power and you commune with divinity and actualize that potential and love with Krishna. So, hearing about Narada Kunda and what happened here, this is how I'm personally taking some little bit of inspiration. That Narada Muni is showing us how to individuate before God, which involves a clarity of our not only our prospect, but an identification of our Polaris star, the star that will guide our life in general, but our devotional life specifically, organizing all our energies around that Polaris star, and then being prepared to perform the austerities required to bring it to fruition, to shed the necessary blood, so to speak, or sweat. Like Mother Jasoda, when she tried to bind Krishna, so she was sweating a lot. There's a verse says that when Krishna saw her Parishrama, the word used, parishrama. He saw her complete labor to bind him, that it was producing sweat from the body. Then, seeing that, his Kripa Shakti, the empress of all his Shaktis, came to the surface and assisted Mother Yasoda. All right, let's do this. Let us bind Krishna. And so, of course, it's important for us as binding Krishna to the heart. There has to be parishram, there has to be some sweat, tapasya. And all the great, starting from Brahma in the beginning of the universe, and then Narada, all of them are showing this example. So that's how I take inspiration from a space like this, where I'm at right now. And I just want clarity about what is my real purpose in life. Just as if I was a normal secular human, what is my real purpose in life? And devotionally, how to organize my energies around that, and have the courage to do so, the courage to individuate before God, even if it means whatever it means for the world of ego. Sometimes I use the word ego-side, like suicide, but ego-side. This is why the fear is there, because the ego is like, well, the implications for me is that I'll be decimated. And so there's, to have the courage to step into our potential means a certain ego side. So we can pray. I would pray like this personally, maybe, that Narada Muni, please give me a little bit of your power, that I have the courage to do the ego side and move towards my potential in relationship to divinity. So maybe I've spoken too much, but I'll stop here.
Anyone want to submit a question or a comment to Jai Jagannath Prabhu on this subject?
So, you said if we are asked what is the goal of life, why should someone reveal his intimate, that he wants to be something? He can say generally, I want to Krishna Prema, why not?
Yes, imagine it is Krishna asking you. That is who is really asking the question. It is not someone else asking the question. Krishna is asking the question of us. Yeya tam mam prapadyante, tam sataiva bhajamyaham. It is Krishna himself who is asking the question. What is your goal? Because I am responsive. Yeya tam mam prapadyante. Yeya tam means in accordance with the nature of one's surrender. I am reciprocating in kind. So if you approach as friend, I will become the friend. This is the Gaudiya import, at least according to Adi Lila. If you approach as mother or father, then I will become a child. I reciprocate in kind. So because Krishna is responsive, it is he who is asking the question of us, and not anyone else. So that is the real meaning of what I'm saying. We're being challenged by reality itself. This is bringing it maybe a little bit down a level. There's this very nice book I'm sure many of you may have read called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a very nice book, very inspiring. And at one point in the book, he's writing that many people are asking, what is the meaning of life? He said, but they don't realize it is he who is asked by life, what is the meaning? And only you can respond with your life. So he says we're thinking that we're thinking that it is we who are asking the question of life. What is the meaning? He says, but actually life is putting that question to us. And we have to respond to that question with our life. Or in other words, in a way, we are by default responding to that question every day by how we live. We can say intellectually, the meaning of life is this, that. It doesn't matter what we're saying. It matters what we're doing. And whatever we're doing, that is the answer that we're giving to that question posed to us by life, or ultimately posed to us by Krishna. Because Krishna is life. Without Krishna, there would be no life. So it is he who is posing the question. And we are answering the question also, in my personal case, poorly. So I'm trying to do a little bit better, give you a better answer.
Yeah, to the point of responding.
Little closer.
To the point of responding, we, when we respond, that means responsibility, and this is, I think, what also stops us to develop our personality in front of Krishna, because we put in the position of being responsible, and I think many of us, or myself, we not want to really take responsibility for this what we're doing. Don't know what was the question almost.
No, that's a super excellent point. I think it's a good way of thinking about the fear. It's the fear of embracing greater responsibility. Just like there could be like couples that have been together for a really long time, and it's like totally cool. And then if one of them brings up marriage, and all of a sudden it's like, it's like a game changer, because that means really greater responsibility. And someone will say, well, what's the difference? You guys have already been dating for 5 years. Well, you just put a ring on it. No, the implication is huge. And so I think that's a really good way of thinking about why we are afraid to love truly, because it means a greater responsibility. And it's like, I kind of want to play around a little bit more.
Thank you for that.
I couldn't help thinking about this question, what is the aim of your life? This was this is one of Prabhupada's favorite questions to challenge the world in general. And as you're saying, Krishna is asking that question. In this case, Srila Prabhupada, representing Krishna, is asking this question, what is the aim of your life? And that becomes a sort of prompt to the whole discussion, well, who are we, what are we doing here, and so on. And I always remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, I guess it was the North Europe BBT, were inspired by this question of Srila Prabhupada, and they thought this would be good to print on the back of hoodies. So they printed, it said, what is the aim of life? Question, what is the goal of life? Question mark. Ask me. So the book distributor were wearing this out on the streets around Germany, and I was kind of embarrassed when I saw that I don't know if anyone ever approached them to follow that instruction.
You should have printed in German, maybe.
But it sounded a little overconfident. But of course, at the same time, there was something to it. It's like, yeah, that's why we're here. We're out here because we want to help you to address this question. And that's what these books are about. But the way it comes across was, we know all the answers, and the immediate response of the normal modern skeptic is, come on.
Saying it nicely.
Yeah, well, in Germany we experienced a lot of much less nice responses. Anyone else have a comment, question? Yes, dear Lalita, I don't know if you can reach this.
I can come close. Oh, that was really wonderful class. Prabhu, thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, you're saying there is a fear to be a person in the front of Krishna. I was just wondering if, for example, what would you answer? What's your take on, for example, one may have a desire to have certain role in Krishna's life, and there is also that eternal Svarup of that person that maybe that person doesn't know about it yet. So how would you put these two together? I mean, is it all right that we desire certain service to be eternal service for us, that we serve Krishna, but does Krishna wants us to actually do that what we desire? How would you put that together? That's obviously without the fear. Just
I have fear to give my answer. This sort of question comes down to how people understand certain Christian conscious fundamentals about, the jiva and origins and the nature of bhakti. And so, of course, recently, all these sort of issues have kind of flared up a little bit and created a little bit of bewilderment in devotional sanghas. Some people say the jivas, like Maharaj was just saying up top.
Radharaman kaho.
Yeah, Radharaman. Some people say jiva falls, some people say the jiva doesn't fall, and we say just chant Radharaman. I have certain convictions I have certain metaphysical convictions that have helped me to reconcile this sort of incoherence that may come up with, the incoherence being, I have a desire for a certain type of love and a certain type of expression of love on the one hand, but that may not be coherent with my eternal position. And so that's going to create a lot of confusion in the mind. It's going to create a difficulty in reconciling oneself internally, by which they can have great force in the performance of their upasana. So I have my way. I'm a little bit of a geek, as you could probably tell from how I speak, and I spend a lot of time with a lot of these metaphysics, and I have my convictions on them that are reconciled within myself and coherent, as far as I understand a proper coherence to be. I won't share that here because it could lead to really lively debate, which I think is extremely important for devotional sanghas to oblige us to think deeper. Like a paradox. A paradox? Here's an example of paradox from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in chapter 9 that he's all-pervading and everything is in him. And then in the very next verse he says, and everything is not in me. So usually when you're going to contradict yourself, you wait a little bit so that people can forget. But right after he says everything is in me, but everything is not in me. So this is a paradox. You can think of a paradox like a philosophical speed bump, to get us to slow down and think deeply about what is actually being said. And so these sorts of issues that come up in theological debate, I think of them like paradoxes or like philosophical speed bumps that is intended to ask us to think very deeply so that we develop a proper internal coherence that can really hold grace. And there's this thing called Socratic inquiry or Socratic dialogue where you keep asking people questions. And one of the purposes of Socratic dialogue is to expose people's inconsistencies to themselves, because all of us love talking, and we don't always have internal consistency in what we're saying. So someone trained in this Socratic method of inquiry will know how to ask a question so that they can expose the inconsistency to you, because when you have to explain it, then you're like, wait a minute, this is inconsistent. And apparently Socrates thought that the absence of internal inconsistency will lead to moral failures. And this was part of the reason for this process. So I think it's really great to have these really...
the absence of inconsistency.
The absence of internal consistency.
Okay.
The absence of internal consistency will lead to moral failures. And so he thought it very important to challenge people so that they would have to demonstrate that their position was actually consistent. And that was like virtuous, and that will help sustain them, like at least on a moral level. So I think similarly with these philosophical issues, sometimes devotees just throw it away. What is the use of all these things? It is so complicated. Let's just chant. Radha Raman, let's just chant. And I think there's a point to be made about that also. And I think also on the other hand, this is great to challenge us to be coherent in our understanding, because that coherence is going to help us to hold conviction and hold grace and move forcefully towards our goal. I've done a lot of work with that, and I think it's a work that everyone has to do personally. But so that's going to really be my answer to this sort of question, just because to bring it up will take a lot more back and forth. But I would also like to say that if you have some genuine desire for Krishna, it's such a rare thing to have like a true desire, like that you really feel is your heart. Anya abhilashita shunyam, a sort of desire that just pushes out all other desires as more or less insignificant. Even if someone shall believe that it's possible that it could be incoherent with my eternal position in the spiritual world, I would probably be of the spirit of saying, go for it, because that desire at least will serve the function of pushing you over many thresholds that you need to anyway cross in order to actualize your potential in divinity. So if that desire is giving you the force of that curiosity, the force of courage by which you can cross those thresholds in your spiritual life, I say it's doing a service. And then at the time in this paradigm of thinking, at the time of the descent of the true realization of your position, then that desire may retire. It's done its service. So that would be how I would articulate it with a person who has the sort of conviction that you're expressing here. And I always say, go for it. What will be the harm? If it can help me move deeply, what is the harm?
Thank you so much.
So that's how, that's the best I can do.
Thank you so much.
Go for it. Thank you, that's very nice. It reminds me, it's been a while, maybe you can tell me if this is accurate, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his discussion of Raga Anuga Bhakti, whether it's in the Jaiva Dharma or this other little novel he wrote, I was quite struck by how he approaches it, the relation between the guru and the disciple, where the guru says, in effect, you're a peacock in the spiritual world, and the disciple says, no, I don't think so. And then the guru says, oh, okay, well then you're a cow. He doesn't use those examples, but it's something like that. It's a dialogue, and they're kind of working it out together. Do you remember reading that?
Yeah, not my mind is going to Harinam Chintamani, but basically, maybe in the Bhaktivinoda Thakur presents Rag Bhajan in those 5 stages: Shravana Dasha, Varana Dasha, Smarana Dasha, Apana Dasha, like this. And Shravana Dasha is just like hearing about Krishna Lila, essentially. And then Varana Dasha, Varana Dasha means the stage of acceptance. So the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur seems to talk about it, as I recall in Harinam Chintamani, is that the disciple is starting to have an attraction to reality from hearing about reality from Guru. And so he brings that to the Guru, that I'm attracted in this way. And the Guru kind of supports and confirms and supports that and helps him to develop his practice on the basis of that conversation. And so he calls that stage Vadana Dasha, the stage of acceptance. That's how I remember it. And so it's very revolutionary insofar as historically the Siddha Pranali Diksha, they just give you basically Manjri Bas, that's it. There's no variety. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur's suggestions, you're 13 and a half, you live here, you're a maid servant Radharani, there's no other option or...
You wear a pink dress?
Yeah, absolutely. Where Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making it conversational, which for me is attractive because it doesn't discard the variegatedness of the absolute truth, which I find, personally, I find it a little, I find it to be somewhat of like an imposition on the free flow of the magic of Krishna consciousness when you say it has to be this and it's only this forever. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is kind of revolutionizing that space. And of course Srila Bhaktisiddhanta follows suit. And then of course ISKCON and Gaudiya Math and so on. So they're criticized for this like tremendously, especially by the Mahans and Sadhus in this area. They see it to be like a deviation. But all I can say is thank you, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Thank you, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, because I know what I'm attracted to in divinity, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a space for that, so I'm very grateful to our Acharya Guru Baba.
Yes, thank you. Is Sonia here? Do I see you somewhere? Where? Outside. Okay, I hear you. Are our rickshaws outside? Okay, I think it's about time to make a move. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna